My name is Dylan Red, and I am doing a overview on From Monster to Martyr by Anne G. Myles on the story and history and later posthumous forgiveness of Mary Dyer as a Quaker. And the story of Mary Dyer is very important to early American and American Christian heritage, and was Quaker ideas and Puritans interactions, which in some cases were proved very violent, especially from Puritans who hanged Mary and many Quakers as well. The story of Mary is that she was born Mary Barrett in England and was married to William Dyer, who became a very prominent member in the Massachusetts colony. He was described and liked by all and described as a good man, and was even friends and had close connections with the Massachusetts colony governor. And she returned back to England in 1652, and this is when the same time that the Quaker movement had begun in full effect in the New England area, and when it became a public phenomenon and emerged as a social cultural force in England and changed certain values and beliefs in English and Anglo American Christianity. And one of the important views of the Quaker movement was how it treated women. It saw women, as a quote from the article, so-called first publishers of truth, women who, like Quaker men, felt that they transcend secular limits of gender roles and were spiritually authorized to speak with bold voices, public voices, and bodies. Now, this was very new to the time, and in fact, when Mary eventually traveled back to the Massachusetts colony, which was heavily influenced by Puritan culture, Puritan society, and ruled by Puritans, they did not like this new inclusion of women preachers and women taking the focus of being missionaries for Christ, or just being self-centered, presented missionaries and preachers. And in fact, she went there to preach and also help other various Quakers who were imprisoned and killed, and at that time in the Massachusetts colony. And in fact, Dyer herself was imprisoned and threatened that if she continued to do this, and the threat of her punishment and her imprisonment and her crime was, according to the article again, on the pains of death. She was eventually released and traveled to Rhode Island and New York area. She continued to preach and was captured and again imprisoned, and then later hanged and executed. And the story of her at the time and later on in American history was only brought up along with Anne Hutchinson, which is another famous case of a woman expanding on her gender roles and preaching spirituality during that time, which was of course looked down upon. Her story, according to the article as well, was compared to the book of Esther, in which as a woman she was representing her people's faith and her people's ethnic group, and were being held in contempt and persecution. And it was only until later during revolutionary America, when religious tolerance laws were passed throughout the colonies, and of course, and then in the first freedom of religion and Bill of Rights, was the Quakers and the actions of Mary Dyer were kind of legal. And then later historians, due to their contempt with dissenters, viewed her as a monster, that she was possessed or she had no right to preach her truths, I guess, self-published truths. But only with the inclusion of recent historiography like gender and feminist studies and history, the articles made the case of stepping stone into more understanding and having a more broader view from the demonstrative narrative at the time, it helped into the early life of Christian women in early America, and the contrast between Quakers and Puritans, gender, missionary work, and how they viewed women in religion and religious society and roles. And one of the main contrasts is what I said about Mary Dyer, that the Quakers viewed women as an important part of missionary work, while the Quakers, if they deemed a woman being different in their religious views, could accuse them as being heretic, a witch, which would lead to their execution. And they were very suspicious on other spiritual beliefs at the time. And that's all I can say, what I learned from the article. So thank you very much for listening. And my name is Dylan Red, and I'll also post the abstract and sources down in the description and the discussion thread. Thank you.